Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Guide to Game podcast. My name is Mark Yurkovich. First and foremost, a big thanks to Martial Gamer on YouTube, my good friend Joseph Kim, fellow hunter, fellow shooter, firearms enthusiast, and among other things, magician when it comes to audio and video recording. What we're going to be featuring for you today is our first pilot podcast at Guide to Game. Content we're going to be delivering are interviews that we performed for the Angler and Hunter radio program via the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. Host is Randy Jennings. Fantastic friend, fellow hunter, guide, firearms instructor, fantastic individual. We hope you enjoy the content. Please stay tuned for our next podcast. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the voice of Ontario Anglers and Hunters, Angler and Hunter Radio. I'm Randy Jennings. What does it really mean to be a hunter? That's an interesting question. Getting your training in both Canadian firearm safety and hunter education is the springboard for a deeper and more meaningful lifestyle we know as hunting. Mark Yurkovich Sr. and Jr. have dedicated their lives to training, teaching, and guiding students towards becoming hunters, and they're with me to talk about their passion here today. Guide to Game, obviously your hunting guides. Mark Sr. is a hunter educator. He is a Canadian firearms and Canadian restricted firearms trainer. He is a national bow hunting trainer, and Mark Jr. is hunter education and mentoring for Canadian firearms. So, I mean, I've got the right guys here to talk about hunting ethics. That's for sure. And, you know, what comes to mind when I was in school, I remember our teachers telling us that these dodo birds went extinct because of hunting. You know, people came and they hunted them all, and that's why there was no more dodo birds. Well, I did some reading on it in my later years and found out that that was entirely incorrect. That settlers coming to that island where those birds were introduced animals such as pigs and dogs to the habitat that normally weren't there, and these birds had evolved without the need for being defended against these. Same thing with Africa. When you look at the problems they have with poaching over there. A wise man once said that if they had modern regulated hunting over there right from the beginning, they wouldn't have the problems they have right now. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about hunting ethics today, and I think you guys are a perfect pair to talk about that. Let's start with Junior. What would you add to the conversation as a hunter? What would ethics mean to you? Some big words there.
Yeah, so for me, I think ethics for myself and in our business are the things that we attach or add on to, you know, the basics that are provided by the legislation and the law. And I got that directly from him when I apprenticed under him as a hunter instructor. Okay. Which is that, you know, if it's ethical, by definition it's legal, and if it's legal, by definition it's ethical. But the buck doesn't stop there. There's other things that you have to attach to it, and you know, we were talking beforehand about the swimming duck example.
Is it legal to shoot a duck that's swimming in the water?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do hunters do that?
Very, very rare. The only time a hunter will shoot a duck on the water is if it's already wounded.
It's already wounded.
And that, again, is another ethical concern. You don't want to leave a wounded animal. You don't want it to swim away and die. And so that's why you do that. So that's where people have to make their own choices. And all we can do is really guide them to those.
Right, absolutely. And I think as human beings, we do the right thing. We really do the right thing. And I think that that's the reason why hunting is not only so popular, I mean, almost 500,000 people in Ontario, but it's also our wildlife populations have done so well. In fact, not so much you, Junior, but for Mark Sr. and myself growing up, there were no wild turkeys in Ontario. There were no elk in Ontario. And it's, you know, maybe my great-grandfather maybe did see a wild turkey back at the turn of the last century, one of the last ones walking around Newcastle, who knows. But it's hunters' efforts and dollars that have brought them back to the range where they once belonged. And I don't think anybody walks a talk like that.
No, absolutely. And there is that stigma in the non-hunting culture, and you know, it's nobody's fault. Well, maybe it's the media's fault, but you know, we've got models like Elmer Fudd and Duck Dynasty and things like that sort of portray the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. And so for people that have never experienced it, they default to that understanding. They think that hunters are just out there looking for the trophy or acting irresponsibly, and they don't make the connection between conservation and ethics and hunters. Those two things don't belong together in the mind of a lot of people. And so we use the turkey example as a teaching aid in the class when we explain to people, you know, you're going to encounter people that are anti-hunting. They're entitled to that opinion.
Yes.
Because they've never done it.
Absolutely.
They're still entitled to it.
Mm-hmm.
Use the turkey example. Have you, as a non-hunter, ever seen a wild turkey? Oh, well, yes, I have. In fact, we were up at the cottage 2 weeks ago. We saw 20 of them in the field. Well, did you know that you wouldn't have seen them there if it weren't for the dollars and the time and the efforts of hunters and volunteer organizations?
And
And
it brought them back.
that'll either open their eyes or they'll not want to see that. But if they go and Google it, all they have to do in the age of information is go and look that up on their own.
And they'll know.
And they're going to know firsthand that we're behind that kind of conservation.
I had it said to me once that ethics isn't something that you do when you're with a crowd of people. It's something that you do when you're alone. That defines your ethics.
We will return with more from Mark and Mark after these important words. Welcome back to Angler and Hunter Radio. I'm Randy Jennings, and you're listening to my talk with hunting guides and educators, Mark Yorkovich Sr. and Jr. All these facts that people need to know also help them tell people who don't hunt why they do what they do. And here's an example. 2 years ago, I came home, got a nice deer with my bow.
Sure.
As a hunter, I understand that was the best decision at the time. And it's same with bears or anything else. I understand well enough how things work that I can be part of nature without impacting the wildlife populations.
I think we as hunters, just by virtue of the fact that we're out there doing all the other things related to hunting, we have context for killing animals. We are able to put killing in context. And back to the non-hunting public, they lack that context, and it's sort of our responsibility to put it in context for them. So yeah, absolutely in line with what you're saying. We have a context for the killing. We're able to make these management decisions based on what we observe in all those hours that we're out there not killing.
Right, but generally, how do you find students react to this when you teach it to them in the Hunter Ed program?
We have to use examples, and that's where I can draw on my 40 years of hunting experience to give them examples.
Yes.
That have taught me, and it puts it in a new light for them.
And this is something you can't learn on a computer screen.
No.
Seriously, when I talk to students, the same as what Mark just alluded to, when I talk about things like respecting the animal, these type of things, they look at me and go, respect the animal, understand the animal's biology. I never expected all this. I thought you were going to tell me, this is how you do this and how. No. You're, as a hunter, for that brief moment in time, you're becoming intrinsically attached to nature, where you originally came from. And to be successful at that, you need to know these things. My class is same thing. Same thing. Right.
It's okay to harvest them, but you have to still respect them and make use of all of the parts of the animal. You have to offer them a clean kill. That's the hardest one.
Yes.
Because.
And that's part of respecting an animal, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, there's that. And you have to make them think about it, because you can't teach them everything at the beginning. It's an introduction only. But to lay down that groundwork for those ethical considerations is the biggest part of the job.
It really is. And it's not something that you tell. It's not something that you teach. Like you were saying, Mark, earlier, you provoke thought.
Yeah.
And as humans, we do generally take the right path.
A well-placed arrow or a well-placed bullet is a far preferable way for an animal to expire in the wild than the other three alternatives, which are the three S's, right? Screaming, starving, or shivering. That's kind of the options, I thought that was really clever when him and I were talking about it, and then I Googled it and figured out that Teddy Roosevelt said that about 70 years ago. So
Yeah.
I used to use the analogy, they die by tooth or claw.
Right.
Which is a very violent way to describe it, and probably not the best one. And Mark came up with the three S's, and that's the one we use in the classroom now, and it's a much better analogy.
A humane, respect the animal, a humane kill, and great food, pure meat, and you know what? I'm sure you guys are finding the same thing. Some of my students, ex-vegetarians, people who are moving towards this, they don't want to eat store-bought meat.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. That's a big shift, right? People not wanting to have that faceless relationship with the food on the table.
We have seen that where people have come in who have chosen a vegetarian lifestyle and then done the next leap, which is, okay, well, it's okay to eat wild game.
Yes.
Because it's a more ethical choice.
Absolutely.
Blew us away the first time we had two ex-vegans register for the class, and we thought, how this is new. How are we going to handle this? And so we did the introduction like we often do to break the ice at the beginning of the class. And he asked, well, why are you here? I was like, well, my partner and I are here because we were picking apples the other day in an apple orchard. And she looked at me and said, we could do this with meat.
Wow.
And that was their epiphany. Picking apples. They saw some deer while they were picking apples, and they're like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
We're ending a life. we're ending a vegetable's life by pulling it off the tree.
Absolutely.
If we can do it, we avoid humane sometimes and try and steer towards using ethical to try and dissolve that attaching human characteristics to animals, right? But we can do that ethically and least suffering.
Yes.
That's the difference between plucking an apple and plucking an animal or a fish out of its natural habitat.
And one of my students once, this is a perfect reply to a question that I asked, why we hunt, which is another show altogether. But, why do we hunt? And one of the students said, well, the way I see it is when I get hungry, something has to die. It's true. It's where we live. It's what we're all about. Mm-hmm. So in closing, that's, ethics, shooting ducks on water. Hunters don't do these type of things, and hunters walk the talk. And I applaud the guys out there who are on the ground leading these conservation movements, and guys like you guys who are out there teaching the new students about our ways and our heritage. Because, like I say, a flat screen ain't going to do the job.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming out, guys, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back to the voice of Ontario Anglers and Hunters, Angler and Hunter Radio. I'm Randy Jennings, and you're listening to my chat with Mark Yorkovich, Sr. and Jr. from Guide to Game. But you must have mixed reactions. Do you ever have, kind of a hardened hunter say, hey, I know my gun's sighted in. Have you had that?
We had one client that was trying to complete his Grand Slam of turkeys, and he was a well-schooled client, well-heeled, and he'd been all over the world hunting, but the only turkey that he had not harvested was an Eastern Bronze. And we asked him, have you got big turkeys? He asked us the question. I said, yeah, we've got them, and, it takes some work, but they're out there. We know where they are. And I said, if you're going to hunt with us, what weekend can you come and pattern your gun? Mm-hmm. Well, why would I want to do that? That was his response. He wasn't offended in that sense, but you could tell he was surprised.
Yeah.
And he came out and he did, I wouldn't say he had his nose in the air, but he was really expecting to school us on his shotgun shooting ability. And we put that turkey target up at 30 yards, and there wasn't 3 pellets in the target zone. And I took a good look at his shotgun, and in my other hat, I do work with shotguns and retail and stuff. And I said, your gun's full plastic. I said, it won't throw a good pattern. And he didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So Mark went in, got the cleaning materials and the bore snake, and we basically gave him a cleaning demonstration. The plastic to come out the end of that barrel was like cellophane. And his next shot, the pattern was incredible. Okay. And you could just see his eyes go big, and it was something that he had never thought of. And I could see the dollar signs in his eyes from those previous hunts that he'd spent thousands of dollars on and missed birds. Because he told us the story. Yeah. Blamed it on the guide, but it was clearly not the guide's fault.
Right.
It got even better with his son's gun, and you figured that one out.
Yeah, his choke was just not made to spec. It was shooting high and left.
Oh, wow.
We tried the snake trick to clear the plastic, and it improved a little bit, but it was still high and left. Replaced the choke, problem solved. But I mean, if we'd sat either of those guys, we took them out guiding, they both shot birds.
Right.
And they were both super satisfied with the experience afterwards. That was just the icing on the cake. But I mean, arguably, as teaching guides, they got their money's worth just from that shooting clinic.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna be a thing they're always gonna remember. Most consumers don't read the fine print. They buy a cleaning product because it's what they've seen on the shelf at the hunt camp, or it's what they've seen somebody use, and they don't read that fine print to see that it cleans plastic. All those shotgun wads are plastic, And
with modern day ammunition, more important. So, and if you're shooting those sabot slugs, I'm telling you right now, and I don't have to tell you guys, the listeners probably already know too, get the right cleaning materials that you need to clean that. So in Canadian firearm safety and in hunter education, there's something that we can demonstrate, we can have them do it in class. One thing, obviously there's no live firing, so that's something that somebody develops their skills on, which you're helpful with because you actually help them sight in their gun. Mm-hmm. What about cleaning the animal?
That's a good one. Yeah,
really good one.
And oftentimes our clients don't want to, they're afraid to, because they don't know. We show them a really good video. We've got a couple of videos that we've made ourselves over the years, gutting videos. You know, that's sadly lacking. That's a hard video to get a hold of.
It really is.
And we've got a couple of them that we use, but even still, they see it in real time, and I explain it to them in the classroom, and all that stuff. But to see it is something incredible. We actually had and this is kind of goes back to hunter education. I was teaching a class. One of our interns was hunting on the property. On the last Sunday of the shotgun hunt, shot a deer.
Okay.
Dragged it up into the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave the students the opportunity. I said, now this isn't really part of the class, but I said, I'm going to show you a gutting video later and explain to you how to clean an animal, or we can just all go outside and watch it in real time right now.
Nice.
Everybody put their hand up.
Wow, how often do you get that opportunity?
Well, 10 years of teaching, that's only ever happened once.
We waited 10 years, but we would joke about it because we always work a course right before the deer hunt opens. It was like, wouldn't it be great if? And then sure enough, finally.
Perfect.
Yeah, we won the lottery that day, and all 20 students in the class wanted to get out there and see it in real time.
And for people who hire you for guiding, I mean, this is an awesome opportunity, because if they do in fact are lucky enough to harvest an animal, this really empowers somebody if they actually have the ability to do this. You know, I've often related it to when I have a problem with my computer and the tech guy comes over and just kind of taps the keyboard and goes, "Oh, just do this and it'll be fine." I need to do it myself.
Exactly.
I'm tactile. I need
hands-on learner.
Yeah. Our very first client, when we first put it up that we were going to do this teaching guide thing, he wanted to come out. We set him up for success. He shot a really nice doe on the first shift that we took him out. And I remember you asked him, you're like, okay, would you like us to do it and you assist, or would you like to field dress and we'll talk you through it? He said, well, you know, I'd really like to do it myself. I've been watching the videos, listening to what you guys said. I'd like to have a stab at it.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. And so we stood there and supervised him, and he did a brilliant job.
Nice.
And we always talk in the program, in the hunter education program, about honoring the animal. And he did a really interesting thing. He cut a little sliver of the heart off and said a prayer.
Interesting.
And that was his thing, right? You know.
And you know, this is about guiding, but it's interesting you say that, because I was telling you off the air about a new hunter I took out that shot his first bear. And when we tracked the bear and we found the bear, he sat down. His firearm was all unloaded and everything, and he sat down on a stump beside the bear, and he looked at me and he said, "Can we just be quiet for a few minutes?" And I just smiled and thought, wow, you know, you don't have to teach people this type of thing, do you?
No, it's really cool as a guide to watch it happen. I've said this to him many times. I would much rather watch somebody enjoy it than do it myself now.
Yeah, me too.
You know,
me too. So that's part of the guiding. Now, one thing we need to know is, how do people get in touch with you for hunter education, Canadian firearms safety, international bow training? So if they want to go outside of the province for bow hunting, or if they want to maybe book a guiding trip, how do they get in touch?
So just visit the website at www.guidetogame.com. Everything's on there. All the information you need is on there. There's some really interesting blog posts as well. But our calendar is right on the homepage, and you can see the events that we run and when we run them.
Nice.
Yeah, throughout the year. And all our contact information is on there. I answer the phones exclusively as well, so 705-768-6550 if you want to talk to one of us directly.
Yeah.
I have a real cool hat for you, Randy, for inviting us out here today. Guide the Game hat.
That's a nice logo too. I really like that.
That's okay, and it's good advertising.
Well, so remember that Guide to Game, and if you just want to go out turkey hunting, you want to go deer hunting, or if you're a new hunter that you want to be a new hunter, you want to learn more about it, these guys are top notch. Give them a call, get in touch with them, and thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much, Randy.